So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Mi Shebeirach is probably the most anticipated prayer of the service. I know people who come just for this prayer. And while I, as a rabbi, of course, love all of the prayers, there is something particularly meaningful and personal and profound about the Mi Shebeirach. Perhaps it's because none of us is immune to illness, whether for ourselves, for our families, or even for our community, and certainly these last years have taught us that. Even though the Mi Shebeirach as an entity dates back 1,000 years or more, its centrality in the Reform movement service is more of a recent development. First of all, we think of the Mi Shebeirach as a prayer for healing, but actually, the Mi Shebeirach is a genre of prayer that isn't particular to healing. Mi Shebeirach means the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we add Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And usually it's done in a Torah service while the Torah is out of the ark. And it's traditional to offer a Mi Shebeirach for an ufruf, for a couple who's about to be married, or a baby naming, or a birthday, or even, as I learned as I was doing a little research about the Mi Shebeirach, for those who gossip, and for those who don't converse during prayer. Clearly, there's a Mi Shebeirach for practically every occasion. Now, somewhere along the way, maybe in the 1980s when Debbie Friedman wrote her rendition of the Mi Shebeirach in response to the AIDS epidemic, it became popularized as a prayer for healing, and today, everyone recognizes the Mi Shebeirach as such. Up until that point, the Reform movement considered healing a personal or private prayer and not something to be shared amongst the community. But once Debbie Friedman took hold, it emerged as a central part of our services. In fact, whenever we sing a different version, one of the clergy hears about it. Really, people like Debbie Friedman. And they believe that this prayer came straight from Mount Sinai. And somehow we're creating this grave sin by not singing this version of the Mi Shebeirach. But of course it didn't come from Sinai. And to be fair, our congregation also likes Cantor Smolash's Choneni and various settings of Moses' El Narafan Allah, which is probably as close to Sinai as anyone could ever get. Today, we offer the Mi Shebeirach in a variety of settings and services, at hospital beds, any time or place one needs healing. It's a powerful prayer. And when I sing it at a bedside of a patient, I can see them visibly relax. And even when a patient is unconscious, you can literally see this feeling of calm come over them simply by hearing the words and the melody. So, one of my favorite Mi Shebeirach stories is when I visited the hospital of a woman who, by all accounts, was in the last moments of her life. I like to sing the Mi Shebeirach in these moments, even when physical healing doesn't seem possible, because we're also praying for spiritual wholeness and the healing of the soul, which I believe is so very important. And so I sang the prayer, and I gave hugs to the family, and I left the room. And the grandson called me about a few hours later, and he said that shortly after I left, his grandmother sat up in bed, asked for a cup of water, and ultimately she lived for another month. He attributed it to me. I attributed it to the doctors, or maybe the Mi Shebeirach. But he constantly tells me that I brought her back to life. Truth is, you never know the power of prayer, particularly this one. We join together in the words of Mi Shebeirach on page 83.
Mi Shebeirach Avotenu Mikol May the source of strength who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi Shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. There's even